Jordan, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Hey, how are you, Derek?
I'm fantastic. Very happy to be talking to you today.
Likewise.
Yeah, so the movie's Before Dawn. It's a World War One film. A very good movie. Had a chance to watch it. Fantastic job. Of course, just want to hit
Thanks.
you with some questions.
Yeah, go for it. So I'm glad I'm glad you enjoyed the film. That's a good start.
That's where we want to start, right? That's always a plus.
Yeah.
So maybe you can tell me where the movie came from, and was it personal for you at all, or was it a project that came across your way and you just got passionate about it, or we can start there.
So it was I read all these diaries when I was in high school, and I was 15 at the time, and yeah, it was a excursion to a war museum, and I got to read these diaries, and yeah. Anyhow, long story short, read the diaries, read some other diaries from other museums, and then started speaking to people, and people were like, "Oh yeah, World War One, Gallipoli." Like, no, the Australian New Zealanders they fought, after that and 3.5 years worth, and were part of Australia's greatest military victories, or some of the world's greatest military victories, and yeah, people just weren't necessarily aware of it. Or I would say World War One, and everyone would be like, in fact, I had one lady that thought that the Aussies didn't even fight in the Western Front, and they were just in World War Two. And I was like, wow, okay, this is a story that needs to be told. So that was, I guess, in a super summary, why I wanted to tell the story, and also reading those diaries, how raw it was. It was like, yeah, this is something that people really need to see, and we wanted to bring that to the screen in a not necessarily a Hollywood gloss sort of storytelling, but something that's really raw. That you're in those trenches and you're feeling the mud, the rain, the cold, etc. Like I did when I was reading those diaries.
Absolutely. That's fascinating. That's super cool. So you just got into it and wanted to tell a story. That's awesome. And the script is very good. What were some of the challenges of making a historically accurate film? Or did you take any creative licenses along the way?
So we had rights to various diaries, and then there were and the characters, or the actual real life people. But then there was also other characters that we couldn't necessarily use their names or whatever. So we also had to draw and almost amalgamate other, go right. This character is 80% based on the diary, but the other 20% we've got to do a bit of creative license here to kind of ensure that the story is moving the way we need it to move, and it was also okay. This is an epic film, but it's also about the individuals. It's about
Absolutely.
their
Yeah.
sacrifices and what they went through. So, yeah, it was quite a challenging script in the sense that like I worked on the story, and then I brought in Jarrad as the writer to kind of also, in a way, to detach myself from it a little bit, so that when we're on set, if I had to delete any sort of scene or whatever, I wasn't going to think, oh, I've just spent 3 months writing that scene. Um, but it was also good to have someone else write that script based on the story, because then there is that creative collaboration there to bounce ideas off and also go, well, this actually isn't working, this is working, and not just me going, oh yeah, it's working, and then we get on set and we spent all this money and go, oh, actually it didn't work, so yeah, being able to have that. But the biggest challenge of all was going, okay, this is epic story, but it's actually not. It's about all the little things in between and along the way. So kind of finding that balance was quite tricky.
Yeah, well, the movie does feel big at times, but then it does get very personal, right? Which is always the
Yes.
hallmark of a great war film, right? You want to do the big stuff and then the little stuff, which is the fear and the craziness, and that does come across in the film. Did a great job there. But how did you work with the cast to get them in the mindset of this world? What was that experience like?
So a lot of them read some of the diaries,
Okay.
but there was a couple little tactics I did. So where we were staying was in a town, and this town's population went through the roof, and we all rocked up with 300 extras and the cast and crew, and it was like everywhere in town that had accommodation, we had it, and on top of that, we were also doing billeting at houses and all that, just to try and keep everyone accommodated for. But the lead actors, there was a place called the Rustic Retreat. And that Rustic Retreat, I decided, right, I'm going to put all those lead actors in this one retreat, because it was a house essentially, but it was a really cool, rusticy, like really cool vibe, old school vibe. But it also meant that it wasn't a case of, oh, it's like a hotel where, not that there were any like 5-star hotels, because it's a country town, but it wasn't like a motel, I should say, where you all had these
Yeah.
individual rooms and all, had your own bathrooms and all that. Because I was like, no, you guys are living in the trenches. You're going to get on each other's nerves in the trenches, and I want you to go home and continue having that same thing occur. So that way we can start to see that on screen. So it's things like that. When they arrived, I gave them all a rendered 303 rifle
Wow.
and said to them that rifle now is going to be with you 24/7. I want you sleeping with it every time you rock up to the mess hall. It needs to be by your side. Whilst they had the real ones when we were filming, I was like, that rifle is yours everywhere.
Wow.
And you did start to notice that, because then the actors would get up, and it was part of it was creative choice. Also, the other part was safety, so that they were always, with it on set, and they always were comfortable with it. But there were times where we'd go, okay, we're moving shot, and the first thing they do, rifle up, fling it over their shoulders, the helmet went on, everything was so natural, because they had just been walking around with this 303 rifle, which, for anyone that knows, a 303 rifle is not exactly light. It's quite a heavy, like, it's a lot of wood on that thing.
Yeah, those are serious weapons, man.
Yeah, and so it's quite weighty. So they would walk around with that, and then you'd have the webbing, and one of the actors, Myles, who actually played Sergeant Beaufort, one day he was saying, because he felt like his shoulders, and he goes, I can't really feel my hands. And the safety guy came up, and the guy goes, well, I don't think, because it was actually not one of the colder days, still cold, but it wasn't that cold, but it was because the webbing was so heavy, it had started to cut circulation off.
Oh, God.
And it was like, so then he's listening, and it was just little things like that. You're just going, wow. And these guys went through that, and then even the nurse's station with the dresses, she was, at times she's getting stuck in the mud and she's dragging along. I said, that's great. I said, look, and she goes, well, do I need to stop to, speak to him? I said, no, because when Jim, which is played by Levi, comes up to you and he's talking to you, it's almost like, this kid, he's annoying me. She goes, well, yeah, because, I'm trying to hit my marks, but I can't hit my marks because of the mud. And I said, well, use it. I said, use all of that. So we had an awesome cast to work with, amazing crew, but we also had an outstanding location. The locations were great because you could really feed off them, because it was always freezing. It was always cold and rainy. And that's why then, after we did our 7 weeks of the battle scenes and we went up north, and we had some new crew come in, they were like, oh, wow, it's really hot up here. It's like 30 degrees. We were like, shorts, T-shirts, like, this is going to be easy compared to what we've just come from.
That's awesome. And a lot of this was shot on location. Where was the film shot? Just
so it was filmed Esperance, Western Australia. So that was just on some farms down there, Kimberdale country, so that the Scott family's farm. And then and then there was places, so then it was Kew, Western Australia, and all around the Midwest region was all the outback scenes over the 2 weeks, so the various breakaway countries, that sort of thing. So pretty much all of it was filmed in Western Australia, just like on opposite ends.
Yeah. Well, just to talk about that, like, some of the best scenes for me were when they were in that mud and they were struggling with that. So that was great, a great aspect of the film as well. But you also did producing on this film. So this is going to be a dumb question, but what are the biggest differences between producing and directing, or what are those challenges for you?
So the producing's think like a project manager. They're the boss. And then and they're the one that's the logistical person organizing everything. But when I'm on set, I'm directing. And so the idea was that I was producing, and then Russell Goodrick, who was one of our associate producers, he was going to be then the producer while we're on set, but sadly passed 2 weeks before filming. Then you go, well, hang on, this is somebody and we had various executive producers, associate producers, but he was someone that had been working so much in the town, so he knew everyone. So that way, when there was something wrong or whatever, he was the guy that could make the phone call. So now it was no longer, oh, well, who do we call? Well, we need to go and check with Jordon first, because he's the only other guy that knows everyone. So that was probably one of the challenges. There was a couple of times where, the first AD would walk up and go, can you just put your producer hat on for 2 seconds? But I had such a great team. Like, when it was really on set, you didn't really need to produce. Everyone just did their thing. It worked really well. And then, and then it was just becoming the producer again in post. But it was challenging, but it was very much, I was on set, I was there creatively directing, that sort of thing. Awesome. I was a little bit cheeky though one day, because the first AD, for those that don't know, he's the timekeeper. He's the guy that's keeping everything going on set. He's working for the producer to make sure that money's not overspent, et cetera, et cetera. And he can also tell the director when he's not to have another shot and another take, sorry. And I turned around and said, well, I want another take, we need to do another take of this. And he's like, no, we need to move on. We're moving on, that's it. And I go, well, I'm putting my producer hat on, telling you as the first AD to tell the director I want another shot. And luckily, it was a good sport. He had a good laugh about it. Went, all right, roll his eyes. And that was the once and only time that I ever did that. But I was like, I had to be, we all, like I said, we're all very close on set, and the worst, in all fairness, the worst it got, the happier we got, and the more we were kind of laughing about everything.
It's awesome.
The set on the first day, we had 120-kilometer gust winds, and I had a guy that was filming behind the scenes. He came up and said, "I'm going to make a documentary on this because what you guys are doing, it won't be a documentary about the film Before Dawn, but it'll be about the cast and crew, about the people behind it, and how they have made it. How did they actually make this production that was deemed impossible to be done in Australia? So about our journey." So that comes out July 5th.
That's awesome.
And even that just goes to show you that, we were very family orientated on set, and it was great to kind of see that collaboration and see everybody working through what really was the closest thing to possible to actually being there at the Western Front.
Absolutely. I guess my last question is, I was looking at your filmography, and there was a bunch of short films in there with your now your feature films. Just maybe if anybody's trying to be a director, what are the biggest differences between doing a short film and a major motion picture?
The short films, yeah. So I'd love to go back to the days in high school when I did all the short films, and it was like, oh, yay, awesome! We just got $5,000 to make this film, and it's like awesome. You think $5,000 is like multi-millions of dollars when you're making a short film, but the thing for me, short films was just a way of exercising my creative license, my learning what I liked, what I didn't like, what worked for me, what was my director's voice, that sort of thing. So it was just, and it was also learning the biggest thing of all, that if I make a mistake, that's the best thing that can happen, because I'm going to learn from that mistake. Because then when I get on a film set, I'm not going to make that mistake, because when I get on a film set with doing a feature film, that mistake's no longer going to be, oh, oops, oh, we'll just do it again. That mistake's now going to cost 10 grand or 20 grand or 30 grand. So making all those short films, and they also helped me, get name out there and won awards. And I got to meet Jack Thompson, who gave me some advice at a festival as well. And so being able to kind of those films kind of just started to escalate things. But yeah, I learned a lot from those short films. But for me, short films is just a way of keeping the creativeness working. And then the feature films are like, okay, this is something serious here. We're telling the story because we want people to see this. This is a story that needs to be told.
Awesome. Well, Jordon Prince-Wright, thank you so much. I wish we had more time. Wish you nothing but the best. Before Dawn, coming out soon. Fantastic film. Really enjoyed watching it. I hope everything goes well for you.
Thanks very much. We got some announcements coming out soon of what we're doing next, so definitely stay tuned.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Alrighty, take care.
This is Derek Scarzella. Thank you so much for watching this video. Just doing a quick outro. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Above all, we want to hear what you have to say about this video, this movie, what it meant to you. Also, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, of course, YouTube. Check out our website, actionagogo.com. And of course, you can check out my own novels, Knuckle Crackbone, as well as The Vicious Game. Links are all down below. We also have a merch store if you want to enjoy our glorious Action A Go-Go electric logo, which is going to come right after this. And of course, again, thank you so much for watching. It's super appreciated. Hope you had a good time. I know we did. Bye.